Give me one last dance before we hit the...
This week and next were meant to be two films that I would consider to be quite thematically linked. They've partially informed my worldview, not to the extremes, but I wanted to talk about this because it's on home release, and over the weekend or so, I'm probably going to watch something that I want to talk about for the following week, so they will be postponed. I'm not doing a Christmas thing because there's nothing that I want to watch that I'd talk about, or everything that I would want to talk about I've probably already done. So, without further ado, let's crack on with Venom: The Last Dance. This was written and directed by Kelly Marcel, who developed the story with Tom Hardy, which nicely leads us into the cast. So of course Tom Hardy returns as Eddie Brock and Venom, with Chiwetel Ejiofor, Juno Temple, Rhys Ifans and Clark Backo joining. We also have Stephen Graham returning from the previous entry, as well as Peggy Lou, as the ever-welcome Mrs. Chen. But a couple of those are problematic, not in a big way, not in the awful meaning of that word, but the fact that we have Chiwetel Ejiofor and Rhys Ifans, who have appeared in the MCU and other entries in the Spider-Man thing, respectively. However, with how the MCU is going into, like, we're going to build up this multiverse to then compress it down and really sort of almost have a reset, I don't think it's going to be an issue for the Mordo situation, and the fact that Sony just keeps rebooting and reiterating the Rhys Ifans thing doesn't matter either. But on that note, his character, Martin, and the family, it's one of those things that I think could have been removed. What they add is just poorly attempted humour, in my opinion, that doesn't land most of the time, and I do not think that they were necessary. We could have had him getting to Vegas or wherever through other means. It's not essential. Even in the ending, they're just there to be rescued. That's it. So their inclusion, I think, was a misstep. But overall, the film is fun. When it tries certain things, it fails. The obsession with shoes. It was funny the first time-ish, but it just became this ongoing, I use quotes here, joke that was overdone. I know it's happened in previous entries as well. Sometimes they do over-hammer the point. This, as the third entry, you'd have thought they'd have learned, but apparently they haven't. So that's one of the downsides. I know I keep intermittently giving scores, but I think for this it would be like a 6, a decent 6. It's not going to change anyone's life, but it's not absolutely awful, and certainly not in the so awful it's actually kind of good. There's a lot here that could have been improved, but I think overall it landed. The CG wasn't perfect to me. Some of the Xenophages did look a bit ropey. The face of Null kind of also looked a bit ropey, but again, it's one of those things. I'll allow some ropey CGI if the film works generally, and the fun bits allowed me to kind of let those slide a little. I still think the portrayal of Eddie Brock and Venom by Tom Hardy is great, and that's what really carries this. This film is very much on their shoulders, as were the other two. The fact that I can barely remember Let There Be Carnage and bits of the first one, this has never been a perfect sort of mini-franchise, I guess, within the SSU. But, yeah, taken on its own merits, it's fine. As a farewell, sort of, to the character, because Tom Hardy has said he's willing to come back. Does it work on that? Yeah, I think the ending is quite bittersweet. You do have that sadness, and you have the post-credits thing with the cockroach that's got the Venom symbiote apparently in it, so there's some hope in the future that we will see more. But overall, if you're into this and you're into the whole Marvel stuff and the SSU, you'll enjoy it for the most part. If you're not really bothered about this, I don't think you need to see it. If you're a big Tom Hardy fan, then of course, yes, you will always see it, but I'm not going down that road. But I always like to end on some highs, and I do think the inclusion of Agony for Dr. Payne, who I know is gender swapped and very different character here, but the fact she had that injury from when she was young, and then the symbiote healed it, and maybe that's another avenue we could follow her in the future. That would be quite interesting. And I will end on the fact that Kelly Marcel, after Andy Serkis directed the previous entry, was like, we know who our Null is. We know we want to include Null, and we think that's the best person for the job because he can give such a good physical performance and vocal performance. And I think that worked. Like I say, it's just the face. It looked very much like Morbius, weirdly enough. And that's a whole other problem. So I'm not going to end on anything too down. I don't want to get into the Morbius problem. But yeah, I think there's a lot here that sets up well for the future. And if they can build on that, this, just by association, might end up getting bumped up a little, with hindsight. But yeah, a decent film. not going to change anyone's life, but it's not going to waste your time. So that's all for now. Next week, like I say, hopefully it'll be something. If not, it's going to be one of the things. I might stagger it depending on how it all works. But yeah, I know what I'm doing up to the end of the year, and I've got assignments, so that's going to be fun. There will also be an announcement on the other channel, and I'll probably do it on this, by the way. There are 2 bits of music releasing later in the month, so kind of little Christmas presents for you all. But I will leave that for next week or later. But yeah, until then, as always, thank you for watching and take care.